I really didn't want to, but I logged on to my email account. It had been a long day at the end of an exhausting week, and I really didn't have the energy to deal with anything that could possibly be in there. I had been living in rural Japan for about 9 months at that point, and I was tired of being shuffled from classroom to classroom like some long-nosed prop. I was tired of being stuck in the rice fields when I longed to be in the bask of Tokyo's neon lights, and I was tired of my boss, Mr. Tanaka, finding new ways to condescend to me. David-san, you are so serious. You should smile more. David-san, we don't think you should drive to that school 3 miles away. You should bike through the snow instead. David-san, we're going to make you move to another apartment, and we're going to tell everyone about this plan except for you. 3 months earlier, I had to give notice that I was not going to renew my contract, and since then, things had only gotten worse. I logged on. Oh, do you guys remember back in 2004 when everyone was saying that if Bush got reelected, they were leaving the country? Well, somehow, I didn't get the message that no one actually meant that. So I was like, yeah, screw this place. We're out of here. Come on, guys. Guys? Guys? And so I ended up in Japan, my mind chock full of Murakami novels. So I was expecting that every person I would meet would be like an awesome experimentalist who knew every Bob Dylan lyric and owned a jazz club. Turns out that they didn't know Bob Dylan, they knew Billy Joel. And for every cool avant-gardist that I met, there were like 100 elderly dudes in nylon tracksuits. And it seemed like everyone there had very clear expectations of Americans. They should be gregarious, outgoing, happy-go-lucky, not able to eat with chopsticks. And when they got me, intense, serious, depressive, the disconnect between my expectations of Japan and Japan's expectations of me were so far apart that it felt like everything was getting jumbled in translation. I was working so hard at my job and struggling, me, who had spent his entire life pleasing other people and working hard and getting that, and I was just so desperate for any kind of validation, anyone to just say, you're working really hard, you're getting better, you're doing a good job. I had one new message from Mr. Tanaka. And Mr. Tanaka and I, just from the get-go, we never could click on anything. For example, I loved the movie Requiem for a Dream. Mr. Tanaka's favorite movie was Rocky. Part 5. That is not a joke. He just was always finding the smallest things to berate me about. When he heard that I had brought 100 CDs with me from the US, he shook his head and said, "You have too much music. What a waste of money." And whenever something happened that Mr. Tanaka didn't like, he would let out this high-pitched squeal. And it felt like every time he saw me, he started making that noise. I opened the message. I heard that you are looking for other jobs in Japan. Why are you doing this? There's no reason to do that. You are not adequate to live in Japan. Not adequate? What a specific choice of words. And as I processed what he had written, I started to get just really furious, because who was he to make that determination? And in an email! And part of why I was so livid is because there was a little piece of me that had to ask, what if he's right? What if I can't handle living in another country? I forwarded the email to the liaison that I had in the state government over his head, and I said, this is completely unacceptable, and I need a moderator because I can't deal with someone who's going to treat me in such an unprofessional manner. The next day, Mr. Tanaka started sending me all kinds of messages. What's on your mind? talk to me, which I promptly deleted. The next week, we had a moderation session at the International Center. Mr. Tanaka brought 2 of his associates. They all sat together on a couch across from me, frowning. And Mr. Tanaka said, "Oh, my English is not very good. You have to understand, I was very surprised to hear you were looking for a job in the country. Not an apology, no admission of wrongdoing." I said, "What I do after this job is none of your business, and if I want your advice on something, I will ask for it. I just have a few months left in this position, and I just want them to be peaceful." After the moderation ended, Mr. Tanaka walked up to me and, smiling his arrogant, mealy-mouthed smile, said, "So, your family's in town. I would like very much to meet them." Like we hadn't just spent the last 2 hours talking about how he had behaved completely inappropriately. I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but we don't have time to meet with you. I didn't know if I had what it took to live in another country, but I did know that at the very least, I was adequate enough to not need this asshole's approval."